From Bitcoin, blockchain or distributed ledger technology to cryptocurrencies, tokens and initial coin offerings, it seems everyone involved has something to say, but can you really trust their advice? One man's had enough of weasel words and charlatans and is ready to give you impartial, independent analysis. With digestible blockchain bites, ICO analysis and need-to-know news on cryptocurrencies, author, speaker, transparency and clarity advocate and award-winning software innovator Barry James brings you Radio ICO.
Hello, and it's Barry James back for ICO Radio and the Blockchain Bytes show. And we have with us today, I'm pleased to say, Richard Crawford-Small, who's in the process of launching COSMECOIN. Welcome, Richard.
Thank you. Thanks very much, Barry. Thank you for the invitation.
So you're very welcome. Tell us a little bit about, very briefly, your background and where did the idea for COSMECOIN come from? What is it? Just tell us the story, would you please?
Yeah, sure. So my background is actually in, I suppose you say, sales and marketing in the global cosmetic surgery medical aesthetics market. I've been involved in that sector for about 13 years in varying different roles, from sort of basically selling individual kind of boxes through to multi-million-pound deals, and working across the major European accounts. And one of the things that's kind of always been prevalent in this sector is people often think about cosmetic surgery and medical aesthetics, and they tend to think about the negatives. They sort of think about the real extremes. So the Jocelyn Wildenstein, Michael Jackson, and those kind of things. But they tend to think less about actually the real important work, the things that actually makes a real impact in people's lives, and actually has a real change in people's self-esteem and their own personal emotional well-being.
Yeah.
And even though the market's been growing, it's now, I think globally it's worth about 60 billion. Those kind of negative connotations around the sector have kind of always pressed it down a little bit. So there's some studies done that about 50% of people who in the US who considered having a treatment don't go through with it. And the reasons are around a lack of trust. The relationship between the kind of practitioner and the consumer is broken, and not a real understanding of the value proposition. So why would you go and spend, £500 with one practitioner, or why would you go and spend £100 with someone else? What's the value proposition? What should you be expecting differently? And also fear. Let's be frank. It's, if you don't understand it and it's not particularly clear, and you're seeing all these negative media stories, then you're suddenly going to be quite anxious about actually having those sort of procedures. So, and that's been kind of not really been addressed massively in all the time I've been in it. So we looked at mechanisms and how we could improve that. And I created a software system called iConsult, which basically managed the whole process from the point where someone enters a practice when they leave, and records all the information, data security, data recording, that kind of stuff. But also added a lot of value to the relationship between the practitioner and the patient, and really built that trust ultimately.
Yeah.
And we really want to take that one step further. And one of the things that can help do that are reward mechanisms. And when we looked at basically the blockchain has kind of hit as an opportunity to actually create the next sort of next level data security and platform to actually put our system on, then obviously the opportunity then came to actually create a next generation reward system based around the token to incentivize and reward best practice. So to make sure that the consumer and the practitioner are kind of on the same page, and build that trust relationship to help grow the marketplace and engage in growth into the sector.
So that's interesting. So how does that work? How does the blockchain technology and the token do exactly what you just said in terms of building trust?
Okay. Well, with the blockchain, unfortunately, I'm not the clever one on this project. I have my CTO, Chris Barber, who would probably be much more eloquent in his answer, but I'll give it my best shot. Remember, I'm the sales and marketing.
Yeah.
So basically, with what a good blockchain is, it's immutability and transparency of data. So one of the big challenges around currently in healthcare is there are data breaches all over the place. Healthcare is a very valuable commodity in data, and companies like Medical Chain have really kind of taken the step forward to look at that as a business case and how we can use that to create immutable records. We can use the IPFS and Hyperledger to kind of make the medical records more secure. But also, it also means that we can put the records in the hands of the people who should actually have access to those medical records, i.e. the patients and the consumers, which is a very, very challenging thing at the moment. And, for anybody who's had any kind of medical procedure, I'm sure they'll be aware that trying to get access to that data is actually quite challenging. And that's one of the major things that blockchain can help us solve. And the thing with the tokenization is actually it's a really, really simple model. It's just like any other reward scheme is, you would, by leaving a review or interacting with our system, our platform, be given a token, a COSMECOIN, or number of COSMECOIN. And the more COSMECOIN you collect, then you'll be able to use those with your practitioners as other procedures or different products and different types of treatment.
So yeah, tell me about the incentivization. So who gets COSMECOINs? How do you earn COSMECOINs? How do you spend COSMECOINs?
Yeah, sure. Okay, so how the model works basically is, so once you've gone through the process, so you would register on the system, awarded the COSMECOIN. We'll help you put you in contact with a trusted practitioner. With a trusted practitioner, it means someone who has gone to our system. They are well reviewed, well respected, and able to actually provide a decent level of care. As you go through the system, the iConsult system as it is kind of collects all that data, stores it on a blockchain, or stores it on IPFS using a blockchain as the oracle. And then when we come out the other side of that, then what we do is we enable the incentivization of aftercare. So one of the big challenges is when patients have had treatment is to actually get them to actually do the aftercare process and engage and make sure that they get the best treatment outcomes. So for every positive interaction through our iPhone app, you say, okay, here is your treatment aftercare process. Click to have you done it? Take a selfie. Yes, you get rewarded with COSMECOIN. And the more you do that, obviously the outcome will improve because you're actually doing what you should have been doing and incentivized to do so. And the practitioner also gets rewarded at the same sort of time. And then we're also rewarding loyalty. So if you decide to go back and see that same person, you're both getting rewarded. So it creates this trust link between the two, which, is something that our industry's been calling out for quite a long time in terms of how do you solve the loyalty issue? Because there's also stats saying that, within the first couple of years, a large percentage of patients go elsewhere just because they've become accustomed to the procedures and accustomed to the same faces, if you like. I think I'll go elsewhere. And if you could, take your information with you and also take your tokens with you, then it's a completely open and transparent process.
So, yeah. So from our previous conversations, I seem to recall that one of the issues this helps with is, I mean, I know what it's like as a patient. The doctor always told you must finish the course and so on, and generally I'm pretty good with that. But it goes a bit beyond that, doesn't it? And the later stages of the treatment can be, from memory, vital to the outcome, and it goes to that.
Yeah, I mean those latter stages. So that connection between, almost they call it like taking the clinic out of the, taking it out into the community, and it happens a lot in general. It's a problem in general healthcare as well. But specifically, let's say for example, a patient has a breast augmentation, okay, and there's a process after that treatment that they need to go through to make sure they get the best outcome. And let's say, for example, that a general kind of issue is I feel okay. I'm going to go out and rather than resting, I'm going to go and party. And unfortunately, something happens when the stitches rupture and you get an infection. Now, because obviously slightly more litigious society than things have been previously, that would suddenly, well, I've been infected. You're a bit embarrassed about the way that this has happened. Therefore, you put the blame onto the practitioner. Now, if we're creating a process where being incentivized and structured through a feedback loop on an iPhone or smartphone, it would say, okay, today is your aftercare. This is day 3 post surgery. This is what should have happened. this is what your responsibilities are. And when you do all those things, take a selfie so you can see how the wound's healing and you get rewarded with a token. Now, obviously, that protects both parties, because if that patient decides to ignore that piece of aftercare and decides to go and do something different, then it's obviously recorded, stored, immutable, and everybody's kind of covered. But obviously, what we want to do is actually incentivize the best practice rather than sort of penalize worst practice.
Well, absolutely. And if that works well, and you should have some ideas about this, I'm sure it leads to better outcomes, and better outcomes are good for me as a patient and good for the doctors, clinical rates and all the rest of it, surely.
Absolutely. It's better for, you'll be happier with your result. You'll be more smiles. You'll leave better feedback. That feedback will attract more patients to that particular practitioner who will experience the same thing. And this is all about getting the best to be found, and also the not so good to be found out, because the reviews are immutable. They're only provided to people who've actually had those procedures. But if your business or your clinical focus doesn't give you those kind of outcomes, then that will be transparent and seen as well.
I like that phrase. It helps the best to be found and the not so good to be found out. That's kind of transparency in a nutshell, isn't it? It's kind of what as you know, it's kind of a lot about what we do in terms of ACOs and so on. So I think there's also another aspect, looking at this from the clinician's point of view, in terms of what would otherwise be word of mouth and spreading the word about those who are doing a good job. Is that right?
Yeah. So one of the other aspects of it is we call it basically it's the connect process. So it's the mechanism of connecting and attracting those consumers. Maybe we sort of said earlier, 50% of people who think about having the procedure don't go through with it. And it's not because they wouldn't benefit from it. Maybe that's in some cases, but often because they just cannot seem to find someone that they've clicked with. They can't find the right information about the procedure. So what we do is we basically create news feeds that pulls, again, lots of different content from different places, organizes it. And unbelievably to me, there's still something that doesn't really exist that clearly in this sector, is actually, just that news feed, that area where someone can go in and absorb a huge amount of information, and then funnel themselves into a selection of a practitioner based on immutable reviews. And obviously, when it's not the only review process there. You have Real Self, you have Treat Well, compare the treatments, some other mechanisms of managing that. But we believe quite strongly that because of the nature of the COSMECOIN review, your COSMECOIN rating will actually become very, very valuable. Also, we're looking at actually not just rating the practitioners in the clinics, but there's mechanisms that we can actually rate the machines themselves, the actual pieces of kit, for their efficacy and how well they work. So it's kind of multiple levels for a patient to go in and actually open up a clinic and actually have a real good look and look at exactly what they do, and their proper outcomes. Yeah.
So an element of the TripAdvisor for cosmetic surgery, is there?
You could say that. You could say that. I mean, a wise man said to me, I can't remember who it was, that economics doesn't change, but technologies do. Yeah. So you're absolutely right. I mean, the review network, and I think in terms of looking at how things tokenization. I mean, people have got caught by trying to make things incredibly complicated, and the review system, the reward system, tokenized, is actually quite simple. It's quite straightforward, and TripAdvisor is probably quite a good model for it, actually, to look at that as aspects of it. Tesco Club Card, perhaps another one around sort of how you would incentivize someone to spend with X, get Y, and then spend it on Z, but as a benefit to basically providing a benefit into a sector to actually increase its value globally.
Yeah. So let's talk a bit about the token. Obviously, this is potentially a step forward, if not a leap forward, for the cosmetics surgery industry. So as someone who is not necessarily that engaged with that. You can tell that by looking at me, I'm sure. But
someone would tell me that I should get more engaged. I think
yeah,
that's what my medical director said.
But why would I be interested in the COSMECOIN? It's a utility token, right?
It is. We are actually, through the ICO process, we are effectively treating it as a security token. But yeah, in actual practice, it's a utility token. I mean, I think that from the why would I want to be interested in COSMECOIN, look at it from a couple of perspectives. So from the patient's point of view, you're engaging in a process that basically it's a real trust builder. And I think, people get reward tokens, they get reward systems. So introducing this into the sector, one, it's quite novel, it's quite new, but also it does fix a significant problem around that trust. So from a consumer's point of view, you can kind of almost rest assured that we are going into this process, and the people that you are looking at and choosing are top of their game. It's all very, very transparent. And by engaging in this process, that you can, hope, there's no guarantees, but you're actually looking at hopefully get a better outcome. From a practitioner's point of view, what you're getting is access to consumers who are already pre-qualified in a sense. They know they want to have the treatment. They're just looking to find someone like you. And the token is almost like we call it the token of trust in a sense. It's kind of like the bit you're passing between each other as a sense of reward. You get this because I've done the right thing, but I've done the right thing, so you get one too. And we are, quite proud to be the mechanism that's providing that. Obviously, our intention is to, it's an ICO. Our intention is to have it traded, have an exchange. There are only 500 million, being minted, and 300 million are in the sale. So over time, that scarcity element will hopefully drive the price of the token in the right way. So no guarantees, but we think that the number that we've minted is actually quite, because it's a global scale, pretty optimum. We don't want to create trillions of tokens where you're having to take wheelbarrows of it effectively to go and to get a procedure. It needs to be something that has a reasonable value to it.
Sure. And when you open the public sale, I don't know whether you tell us when that will be. What will be the notional value initially of the coin? Are you able to say?
Okay. Yeah, I can. So we're just coming through the pre-sale process. The public sale should open up in around about a month's time. And the initial token price will be 1.85 cents. And I've been told I should convert that into sterling, but off the top of my head, I can't. But basically, the token price listed is 0.037, but we're discounting through the stages. So by the end of the ICO, the notional price, as you say, will be 0.037 cents.
Okay, so we're talking about the public sale sort of round about mid-June, by the sounds of it. Is that right? Yeah. And in the meantime, you'll be whitelisting, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, the whitelisting process is up and running right now. We're in the private pre-sale process, so people can whitelist and have a look at that if they're interested. The website is www.cosmecoin.io. I love the IO thing. It's suddenly, not from being from a crypto background. It fits quite nicely with lots of different things, especially rad.io. I love what you did there. I love what you did.
ICO Radio, yes.
ICO Radio, I love what you did. We whitelisting with our Telegram channel is up and gaining momentum. And I think actually just on that side around the ICO is I think it's almost as important to talk about actually how we did it as opposed to what we've done. So we took a very bold step in creating this ICO to treat it as a security. So we went very heavy on with our legal advice early on, and we engaged a London law firm called Allen and Overy, who have structured the token instrument for us, and we're effectively issuing it as if it was security. So we've embargoed. So we're operating under what's called Reg S rules, which means we've embargoed ourselves in the United States, Canada, China, Japan, and various other jurisdictions. Which, you can sort of say, okay, doesn't that hurt you? Because those are kind of some of the largest cosmetic surgery markets in the world. And I agree, they are. But we've got a system that's already trading in England, Australia, UK and Australia, which, those will give us good traction. And then further down the process, we can target those other jurisdictions. And the team itself are very focused on making sure that, that this ICO was conducted in the right way. But at the time, that right way wasn't very clear. It's a very, fluid marketplace. So, but we think we're one of the first to actually get it pretty much right on.
So, given the turbulence and some of the saber rattling that's come especially from the SEC in the States, you decided that although it's a utility token, you're going to go an extra mile. And it's kind of the abundance of caution thing, I guess, isn't it?
Yeah, there's always this kind of, I suppose, the balance between legal caution and business reality. But when, after seeing a number of different lawyers to structure the token instrument, and we sat down with the guys at Allen and Overy, and we said, well, we're not sure if it's a utility or a security, and they was like, security, bang, straight away. That was it. That's what we're going to have to treat it as during the race. However, we accept that it is a utility under UK law, but as soon as it goes out into the world, it's the SEC and Mr. J. Clayton's interpretation of the securities law that carries weight. And we look at what's happening with ICOs around the world in the last sort of month. Treating it that way was absolutely the right thing to do. So it's I understand the and I kind of sympathize in the sense that you want to create this everyone wants to create this culture and this tokenized world, but there's a process that obviously we need to follow to keep our ICO alive. The last thing we wanted to do is to have it shut down and our investors suffer.
Yeah. So that's been quite a longish road for you. You're kind of making some great headway by the sounds of it now. What are the lessons that you've learned along the way? What would be the things that you would advise other people who might want to travel the same road?
That's a really great question. Have you got an hour? There are so many lessons you've done. And I think I've just done three. Really are. It's a process that will probably take twice as long as you initially believe, and it's something I think it's not a case of just going out there and say the white paper days and website days are done. You have to have a nailed on business case for a tokenized product and a blockchain usage case as well, an underlying business model and business strategy. The legal input into the token creation is incredibly valuable, and it's so necessary to get that at the beginning of the process. And then also, as we've said, we're relatively early start of the actual fundraising process, but what I've learned from that is it's a full-time sales job. It's sales and marketing, 101, but you take those principles, and you've got to get out there, get out yourself in front of as many people as you can, kiss a lot of frogs. But ultimately, I think that's what will give you success. So, short term is, make sure that your business structure is correct, make sure that the token structure is correct, and be prepared for a very long and exhaustive process. Yeah. But the reward is, once you've nailed it and you've got it, you'll have an opportunity then to actually create what it is that you've dreamed about. And, as I say, I'm looking forward to going back into my home sector, cosmetic surgery, medical aesthetics, and changing the ways that the consumer engages with it forever. Yeah. That's what I'm here for. This is a legitimate mechanism to get there. Yeah.
So making the world a better place. Great.
One step at a time. Yeah, I can't make the whole world a better place, but I can do my little bit.
Yeah. Sounds great. So before we sort of close off the interview, let's make sure people know where to find you. So how should they find you?
The first step I would say is go to our website, which is www.cosmecoin.io, COSMECOIN.io. You can find me on LinkedIn, Richard Crawford-Small. I'm there drop a message to me. Always happy to connect. You'll get the details of our Telegram channel as well. And if you use our old friend Google, just Google COSMECOIN or myself, and you'll find me. There's a few videos of some of the bits and pieces I've done. I've got I've been published in my home sector with a book called Changing Faces, which is about creating medical aesthetic businesses. So there's some interesting stuff there if you're interested about the background and I think how the journey of how we got here. Yeah, feel free to reach out. I'll always take a phone call.
Okay, and Twitter as well. You're going to be on Twitter?
Yep, Twitter, our Crawford-Small, we've got COSMECOIN Twitter, we've got COSMECOIN Facebook, I think there's Reddit, Discord, I think you name it, we're there.
Well, if you want to send all those across, we'll put it in the show notes so people can find it easily. But other than that, Richard, thank you for your time today and very best wishes. I know it's going to go well for you, but very best wishes for COSMECOIN.
Absolute pleasure, Barry, and to you. It's great talking to you today. Thank you.
You too. Bye for now.
ICO Radio was brought to you by author, speaker, transparency and clarity advocate, and award-winning software innovator Barry James. Get in touch with the programme. Put yourself or someone else forward as a guest. Visit iconewsdesk.com. And if you've enjoyed the show, please leave a review. And don't forget to subscribe to get your next insights and interviews from the ICO Radio podcast.